So there is this topic is bonkers, guys. It's a little weird. Stalinist Sundance loyalty oath. Basically, if you want to get into Sundance Film Festival and you want to watch movies, you have to swear a loyalty oath to the gods of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's bonkers. This is so it says, I attended Utah's Sundance Film Festival before the pandemic, then started watching its offerings online. This year's festival began today, and I looked forward to seeing new small market films from my recliner. But when I logged in to buy my tickets, I was stopped at the virtual door. So I'm picturing like a dude who's dressed like Stalin, but he's like a bouncer at a nightclub maybe. And so he's at the door and he's like, if you want to get in here. So it says, the site wouldn't sell me tickets unless I affirmed the festival's community agreement, among other things. And I had to promise to be vigilant in the fight against the spread of COVID-19. Again, he's doing this from home. This is not in person.
Constant vigilance.
He's doing this from home to avoid unwelcome sexual attention from home.
Wait, what does that mean?
Yeah, harassment, stalking, and inappropriate physical contact of any kind, to refrain from abuse or intimidation, including that related to race, gender, position, or wealth.
The avoid unwanted or like sexual what was it?
Sexual advances, sexual attention, harassment, stalking, and inappropriate physical contact. But like saying
like I will avoid it being like I will refrain from stalking someone, or saying like I will wear a full-length skirt so that I don't draw attention to my leg. Like I feel like we can interpret this in a
unwelcome
way.
I've got the whole community agreement here, guys. My favorite part about this is it really is. It's like a checklist for psychopaths who have to remind each other that they're all psychopaths and that they need to like, hey, by the way, could you try to not be awful while at my event for security and like insurance purposes? So the Sundance Institute supports bold, creative, independent arts and artists. We create events, programs, and platforms, both digitally and in person, and then we're going to go down to where they start talking about it. Therefore, we ask that everyone in the Sundance Institute community do their part in creating an environment that is welcoming, safe, and inspiring to all those committed to being, and then it lists them off here. So it says, inclusive and respectful of people of every race, ethnicity, gender identity, expression, disability, sexual orientation, nationality, religion, age, physical appearance, and body size, language spoken, and immigration or economic status, by refraining from demeaning, discriminatory, or harassing behavior or speech. That's just the first one there. So like,
can you imagine what lawyer had to be like, go through it again?
I know.
Did we miss anything?
Right.
Read it again.
He's just like, he's like a bill by the hour. This is amazing. It says intentional with your words by abstaining from hate speech or actions of any kind, including the abuse of chat function. So that one actually is relevant to the online version of Sundance, right? So, I don't know how he's going to sexually harass someone like, while watching a movie at home. But I guess like it could be like sexual harassment.
But he promised not to, so he can't.
Yeah, he won't. He won't do it now. So it says, be mindful of the boundaries of others by avoiding unwelcome sexual attention, harassment, stalking, and inappropriate physical contact of any time. Again, I ask, how does one have physical contact while online?
I'm excited about this because they're saying that the person is agreeing not to watch pornography, and I think that's a healthy thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like I can get down parts of this contract.
Respectful of moderators, artists, and audience members by refraining from sustained disruption. Also, no hecklers. No hecklers allowed. The number one thing I thought of...
That's imposing on my freedom of speech. Yes. I don't like that.
Respectful of individual expression and intellectual property of others. It also requires that you acknowledge that others may have a similar or the same story, idea, or concept of yours. So basically they're saying they're all out of ideas too.
Also, you can't accuse anyone of plagiarism. That's what they're saying.
Look.
Interesting.
What it tells me is like, I imagine a world where creatives, people who are supposed to be artistically free, running headlong into bureaucracy because it's part of an industry full of horrible people. So it's like, maybe it's kind of like that thing in Velma. It's the famous feminist mantra, like, maybe you should teach your boys not to hurt women, and then no women would get hurt. It's like these people have to say very obvious statements like, don't R-word people. Like,
is there anyone out there who is like, well, if I have a daughter, I'm going to train her to be kind and smart and empowered. But if I have a son, I'm going to train him to punch women in the face. Like,
exactly.
I just don't think that this is a conscious, like.
They wouldn't let them into the festival if they
Gamer
didn't.
fathers do that.
Really?
Normally,
I don't believe you.
You never know. Normally, an agreement like this would be something that would be like there, but they wouldn't make you sign it. That's freaking weird.
Unbelievable.
Be in the cult.
That's weird. Like, yeah, it is. It's when we say it's a cult, it's a cult. It's so weird. And like the reason why we talked about this, like at first I thought this was a little bit like, look, it's hyperbolic. There's a little bit of hyperbole. It's there like these are our rules to follow, except for it's like the rules are so like cuffed that like they can't do anything now. They're like, I don't like your hate speech. Well, I think you could no. Like, oh hi, how's your dad? No, don't touch me. Like they're literally like, because they're bad people, they have to have like childlike guidelines to keep them from being bad to one another because it's Hollywood and Hollywood producers are awful people. But we don't just have this, guys. That's not just the problem here. The other problem was this article about how they're punishing movies for asking hard questions and trying to tell hard stories because they don't fall in line with their doctrine. This is an article from Hollywood and Toto, which, I would like to get Christian Toto on here someday. He's been on IRL.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's great. So it says they talk about how basically they shut down movies where they punished the movie Jihad Rehab, which was by a woman named Meg Smaker. And it was a movie about 4 former Guantanamo Bay inmates who were released, and it was about their kind of reintegration into society. And immediately it was hit with like, you can't make this movie because you're not Muslim. You're a woman, you're not Muslim, you're a white woman, you can't make this story. But they rail against free speech. The journalists rail against free speech. I've never seen something so funny as an industry that calls itself creative. Thank you!
You're trying to make your point.
Is there anything less inherently creative than modern day Hollywood because of the shackles that have been put on them by the corrupt journalists and the absolutely ideologically radicalized people within the sphere? It's bonkers.
I think white women without head coverings like doing work is haram.
Well,
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
yeah, you're not even allowed to have an opinion on this.
You asked me to come on this show.
So they point out they reference Netflix workers staging walkouts when Dave Chappelle had a stand-up special because you can't, it's like you can't insult certain people, you can't insult certain groups, right? So I've just never seen an industry so like cuffed by its own beliefs, right? Like there's all these people that likely have amazing ideas. Like we laugh all the time, like they got no ideas. I'm like, they have ideas. They just can't share them with anyone. Yeah. You're not allowed to be creative in Hollywood anymore.
Well, and Hollywood prefers to play it safe. Like it's not about risk taking in art. Like it's very much about how can we get bodies into theaters to get the awards at the ceremonies where we have put other people who we also pay to be there. Like it's a self-sustaining industry and there is no reward for them. I mean, there should be, right? But they feel as though they can sustain what they want to by putting out, and I know this is going to make me sound like broken record, but like the 8th sequel in the Marvel DC universe, right? Like
Marvel DC,
the crossover's coming.
Please no.
But they're getting so big. There's at some point going to be just like this monolithic culture of superheroes. Like, no, I'm sorry, but I can't tell the difference between the universes, and I don't think anyone else really can.
With DC and Warner Brothers in such dire straits too, I could totally see Disney buying up Superman, Batman, etc.
I don't think
and
they
making
can do
this
that.
happen.
I think Warner Media will sell to another. They'll leave, like Discovery will sell them to another company before they'll sell to Disney. I wonder if that would trigger some type of.
Warner can't decide itself. Discovery is deciding for Warner. Like, what does Discovery care if it's all about actually making money?
It's all one company now. It's all David. I love David Zaslav. I love David Zaslav's ruthless. Like you're fired. I love it.
I love how he's upsetting everybody.
I don't like. He's a Democrat. he donates to Democrats. I don't give a crap. It's funny watching him fire people because like they're projects that nobody's watching, right? Like it's like nobody's watching it.
And it's like it doesn't matter about his politics. Like he's acting like a businessman, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that is something that we need.
Yes.
Literally doing his job.
Literally.
Let me walk back what I just said. It's not funny watching him fire people. It's funny watching somebody care about the business side of it again, not just the message behind it.
And for people to be like, "How could you fire me? My project's making no money."
Yeah.
Like,
but the message behind my project. Look, but hey, I posted something the other day. I'm like, look, maybe we should have gotten that bat. Like I watched Velma, and I'm like, maybe that Batgirl movie was a better idea after all. Like maybe we would have been better off with ugly Batgirl movie.
I kind of want to see it just to like see how bad it is.
Well, like Brendan, it's got Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser's great. Leslie Grace is beautiful. The costume was just disgusting. So they point out here, like, look, Hollywood and these reporters especially talk a lot about how they speak truth to power. They speak exactly the truth to no power whatsoever. They criticize the little guy all the time. These people, like, I've seen, there's a Brett Kavanaugh documentary coming out. Like, they don't speak truth to any actual
that's
power.
topical now.
Yeah, I know, right? Like they
Never forget.
Yeah.
It says critics complained about a white woman like Smaker having no business directing a film about Muslim culture, ignoring her extensive ties to the Arab world. Others said the film could put the participants in danger, even though they were informed about the film's content and had the ability to decline her invitation.
That's the thing that writers used to do is like you'd used to go out, you'd research something. If I was gonna like set a book in like West Virginia or whatever, I'd roll out here and see what it's like for a little bit, right?
Christopher Priest.
Easy.
Christopher Priest.
You don't have to be from West Virginia to write a book about West Virginia. That's insane.
It says the fallout from that embarrassing article, which included Team Sundance apologizing for showing the film last year, is ongoing. Yet several liberal news outlets, including The Atlantic and the New York Times, covering the cancellation with a palpable sense of outrage. So look,
sorry, I was just gonna say, like, is it? So they would rather have someone who apparently does have ties to this culture, even if she's not directly a part of it, not talk about this issue.
No, you're not allowed to.
Pressing than to deal with something that would be slightly uncomfortable, right? Like realizing the complications, like especially coming from like a Western world, like giving a close up perspective on Muslim culture. Like I think you would want that, right? Instead they'd rather have something like that they control the narrative of. It seems like
the end goal of this stuff for the, like, if you were to be 110% generous, the end goal to these people would be separate but equal, because they don't want anybody interacting with other cultures. They don't want you to have anything to say. Stay in your lane. They love the idea of staying in your own lane. They want everyone to have their own drinking
but they
fountain.
want you to be culturally aware.
But stay in your own lane.
You should want to learn about all kinds of cultures, but you can't learn about them from most sources. And also, don't ask any questions unless they are imposed on you beforehand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. If someone is truly curious about what happens to people who are held at Guantanamo, I would watch this movie. I'm definitely curious, right? But I'm not supposed to because the director isn't the right race. Like,
it's bizarre.
That seems crazy.
The generous idea is they want separate but equal. The less generous idea, and likely the more accurate one, is they want a certain amount of domination for certain cultures over another. It's why they homogenize white culture to, you're not Italian American, you're not Russian, you're not Russian American, you're just white.
I would love for Islamic culture to take over Hollywood and see how it goes.
If they make the dominant culture intrinsically hard to understand, it's okay to make fun of, because there's no way to categorize who's in charge of it. So you're allowed to insult it because there's no defined nature around it, because they try to act as if America has no culture of its own, and the culture of its own that it has is problematic. It's Elvis Presley. It's Americana. It's all these things. How many times do you see anything where they talk about the 50s? Like, oh, well, they beat their wives. Like, that's what they say. Like their idea of America is that every dude in the 50s beat his wife and treated her like property.
all the housewives were on drugs, and that's the only way they made it through their lives. Like, that if you actually spoke to any woman who was living during that time period, like, it's much more complicated and nuanced. Also, like, there are probably things that were going really well for them. Like,
and if you look at the stats for now, like, I mean, now really all women are on drugs.
That's the thing. They're
and less happy, and everyone's less happy.
They're making fun of this culture, but they are still doing exactly what they said. Like, they are unhappy and working instead of, I guess, so theoretically being unhappy at home. Like, you're telling me you've just been unhappy for decades? This doesn't make any sense.
Yep. So, like, this to me, it's like, I look at all of these people, and it wouldn't bother me so much if they didn't brag so much about speaking truth to power and acting as if they were fighting the good fight when they're not. If you want to know who's in charge, look at who you're not allowed to criticize.
Well, and also, like, if you're speaking truth to power, the truth is going to be uncomfortable, right? Like,
absolutely.
We shouldn't only live in a world where we're looking to hear things that feel comfortable to us. Like, occasionally we have to put ourselves in positions where something is difficult and something makes us
That's right. Speaking real truth is going to get you banned and blacklisted and all the things that happen to people like me. You don't get to make Hollywood movies.
This was from his original part. From the original part of this article, he says, "I asked if I could buy tickets without affirming the agreement and was denied via an anonymous email. The damage I might have done to someone's sense of belonging while watching the films from my Indiana basement 1,500 miles from Park City, Utah was apparently too much of a risk."
Hilarious.
Bizarre.
Like, also, have you ever noticed, like, it's no longer trust and safety, it's trust, safety, and belonging team. And I love that there is an idea of there's like a dude in charge of belonging. Like, I want to be in charge of belonging here at Timcast. I'm in charge of team safety and belonging here.
How does that work?
Belonging is just a synonym for, because people started making fun of inclusivity.
Yeah,
right?
if you want to feel like you belong, you come to me. I will make sure you belong. You belong here.
But also that means, like, if I come to you and I'm like, hey, like, I am the lone conservative and I work in a like super liberal environment, you'd be like, well, it's probably because you need to be more open-minded to some people's ideas. You know what I mean? We're doing the right thing. You need to change for us. Like, it's not actually anything real.
It's absolutely bonkers. And as an industry, it's like, look, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Like, everyone's like, oh, everything's going to change. A lot of people are like, woke's gonna die soon. I'm like, first of all, I hate that term, but it's not going anywhere.
I get that all the time because I do a lot of videos and things like that are just like, hey, this is the weird woke thing that's happening this week, and people always go, the woke thing's gonna die. Like, I mean, the companies are wising up. They're really not. They're pushing harder.
The corporations are too large.
Yeah,
they're too unwieldy. And you can't just turn that ship at the drop of a hat. Those, it's not just the movie that comes out. It's policies that have been implemented at your human resource level.
And I was going to say it's the hiring.
It's the hiring.
They have hired whole classes of people who have then climbed this structure who are now in control. Like, you can't stop them.
No, it's we're decades behind.
Right.
It's like we just got to like.
And all they're doing is hiring all their friends who are hiring all their friends, and they're just getting weirder and weirder and weirder every time.
So, like, I know that's a little bit of a black pill, but it's like the idea is like what it should do. It shouldn't be a black pill. It should be a white pill. It should be a white pill that you should be creating your own stuff, like what we're doing here. Hopefully, like what Crowder is doing, what Daily Wire is doing, what everyone is doing.
Crowder and the Daily Wire.
Yes.
Way to sit on a fence, Brett.
Hey, like the poll today was going to be like, which is like worse, having a poll about the Daily Wire versus Steven Crowder or not having a poll about Daily Wire versus Steven Crowder.
We're a pop culture podcast. We have to talk about it.
Yeah.
No,
well,
I mean, but also good on this guy for actually reading this agreement, right? So many people have been like, fine, whatever, I'll click your thing. Like, and even if even if he then didn't live by it in his Indiana house, like, he still would have consented to it, and it would have reinforced that idea that, like, these are beliefs people share and are willing to.
And most people don't even read these terms of service. They just click and go. Yeah.
Well, it's like one of the most profound things I ever read was somebody wrote like a long time ago, said like, we traded in the United States Constitution for a terms of service agreement, and we really did. When we gave up the right, like when we accepted, and I guess society and modernity in a lot of ways have decided that the bulk of your speech will now take place on platforms that are owned by private entities. You've sacrificed your Constitution for a terms of service that you have no control over, in which they have all of the power and you have none of the power.
It's a way they actually try to control people like us for a long time, because like you view corporations as separate than the government, and they're just a private entity doing what they want. But once a company gets kind of big enough, they really act as their own government. It is kind of government entity.
Like Disney with Reedy Creek and everything
really
that went on there. Yeah.
So it's never something where you can just be like, a private business can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Disney's not a human being. It's just an evil satanic monolith.
Well, what's weird though is like I always had that, like it was always one of my beliefs that I would think it was weird when people would try to get corporations to act like people. When they're like, why didn't they why didn't they apologize for this? I'm like, well, dude, they
have to talk to 25 people to give out any kind of statement.
It's not a person. Like, their job is to make money. They have one function. Their job is to make money. The reason why people have such a weird opinion about this stuff now is it seems like they're not trying to make money. But because now ESG has been injected into a lot of this, and you discuss, how much of it is because of stakeholders as opposed to shareholders, how much of it is because of their stock price changing because of policies implemented. It's gone beyond just being about selling a product to a consumer, which is why it's better now to support smaller entities.
And we saw that with even like Twitter. Like, I mean, when everybody was getting banned a couple years ago, I mean, Elon came out with it that the government was actually pushing all these narratives behind the scenes and actually making things happen from there.
Oh, it was so weird. I had to explain to my dad what the Twitter files were. And
Got to keep these boomers in the loop.
look, I got my dad into watching Styx, Hexenhammer.
Yes.
All right, Dad. After there was AOL.com.
Yes. Like I got my dad watching Styx, Hexenhammer, and like I love the idea. Like I had to explain to him, like, look, the suit that those people on the news wear, it's a costume. Mm-hmm. It's a costume designed to make them look more palatable and to look them like they know more. Mm-hmm. The guy in the robe with a coffee cup and in a spoon knows 3 times as much as the dude who's just reading off of a cue card owned by a conglomerate, and is far more willing to be, especially somebody like Styx, who doesn't take ad revenue on YouTube, has his own beliefs, he sells his own products.
He's got to research it himself.
Yeah, he's got to research it himself. So it's like all this stuff's happening, and Hollywood really is at the forefront of it because so much of the propaganda is pushed through there. So.
Same thing for here, guys. But if you don't follow Brett's the real deal. I mean, if you look at Brett and how much research he does for this stuff, he was texting me articles all night last night. He really works really hard, and I'm not just buttering you up. I'm just trying to let people know.
Well,
here's $140 for
Thank
saying
you.
that.
Yes.
I'm in charge. Me and Mary like to joke all the time, like we're in charge of the fake news here. Like we're the fake news arm of.
Well, I think it's
because
you're passionate about what you do. Like you guys really get into these topics. Like you don't just read a review of the movies, like you watch the movies yourselves. I think that like so much of culture right now is somebody being like, I've heard this is the majority opinion, so I'll regurgitate it and say it's someone else who then says this to someone else.
Oh, I love pissing off both sides now, because like people get mad when I do get messages from people who are like because I make fun of people who overuse woke. I'm like, look, it's like they now attribute literally everything to that. I'm like, there is such thing as just a bad movie. There is such a thing as just a bad piece of media. Not everything is just because of that. Like it's like the joke is always like, it's like, oh, are there women in it? Oh, that's super woke, dude. Like a movie with chicks.
Well, and like, can you even define woke?
Exactly.
Like,
there's no definition to it.
Same thing with like conservative or same thing.
There's a thing called the golden ratio for women, Brett, and I'm going to teach you this because you need this for your podcast too. Stan Lee developed this, the founder and father of Marvel Comics, and Ethan Van Sciver brought this to prominence recently. But if you look at the way that he did things with the X-Men originally, with the Fantastic Four, there's always 3 or 4 men to 1 woman. And that way the woman doesn't overwhelm and talk too much, because if you get 50-50, the women are just going to talk about everything. But 3 or 4 to 1 works really well. We're not quite at the good ratio right here.
We're 2 to 1 in this room.
Not quite as good. Yeah.
If there was 2 women here, we'd be at a diner eating food in the comic
To be fair.
and we'd be talking about something inconsequential.
Well, normally I'm on with Mary
foodsies.
on Tuesdays, and so it's a reverse 2 to
2
1
women.
ratio.
Oh, no.
And usually,
And we survived the show, but I mean,
I take
it's probably not as good as if we had more men.
we get
Wow.
done. We get
that was
done.
that was the smartest thing you've ever said.
Yes.
We get done those days, and I'm like, I need a drink. Oh crap, I don't drink. Like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
It's like a bag of Skittles, just straight.
Well, the other thing that's funny about it is like when it's not structured, the same way a corporation is. Sometimes some people have more to say about one topic than another. When you watch like a network show, there's a person whose job it is just to be the straight man, whose job it is just to be this person, and that role rarely ever, if ever, changes.
It's just boxes, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like here, it's like the things that Mary cares about, Mary is very passionate about, she will speak heavily on. The things I care more about, I will speak heavily on. When we did our reviews of Velma, episodes 1 and 2 bothered me more, and I was very, very angry. Yeah. Episodes 3 and 4, she had more to say than I did. I mean, by that point, I was just dejected.
Well,
and
and
sad.
you guys have opted not to do like you guys don't talk about anime.
No,
because
like,
neither one of you are specifically passionate about it. It's very, it's complicated and it's niche. So you guys are like, we're just not suited for it. Like,
that's a big thing, is not covering a ton of stuff. Like even the Sessler and the Frost stuff is the outskirts of the culture war, not necessarily something I'm super interested in. And that's the edge of where, like, we moved that discussion to comics because it was more relevant to both of our experiences. True. Right? Like the idea is like, I don't want to talk about stuff that I don't have an interest in, because people can go watch regular TV if they want to watch a bunch of stuff about stuff people are pretending to be interested in.
Why aren't you watching anime is the real question.
Look, I don't have.
That's a different topic for a different.
Sorry.
I did watch. I did start trying to watch, because I watched The Legend of Vox Machina, the one based on Critical Role, and I really thought it was draining and boring.
That doesn't really count.
No, I know,
Okay.
but it's relevant to what we were discussing now, because I tried to start watching season 2. I'm like, ugh. Which is funny too, because I love Ashley Johnson from the show. She's a fantastic actress, so I love her work. But like in general, I can't, dude. I have the stuff I like. Like I don't even like switching genres that much. I watch a lot of the same genres most of the time.
We'll work on him, Chad. We'll work on him.
They were like, oh, there's people in the, like, that send me messages like, I know you don't like to watch it, but here's a good one. Like they're giving me like intro courses, so it's like, hey, somebody one day will be the one who who finally gets me into it, and they'll
converts
be able to.
you.
Yeah, they will. Be
I
able
have
to
a dream that you're going to watch Evangelion, and Hannah Claire's going to watch Die Hard, and all of the world's problems are going to be just solved.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media, and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.